How is it going, guys? We are back with another awesome episode. And by we, it's me and Amy. It's usually just me. So
How's it going?
she's back for this video. But history of coffee, guys. I love coffee. You probably know if you've seen any of my videos. She loves coffee. We're drinking coffee right now, as a matter of fact. Um, but yeah, history of coffee. Original channel is Fire of Learning. And as always, the link to the original video will be in the description section down below. So go ahead and check that out. And we're going to go ahead and get into this. Switch my screen over here real quick here. We'll try it in the top left. If I need to move it, I will.
Coffee. Over 125 million people today are, in some form, employed in the industry surrounding it worldwide, helping to bring the world the 400 billion cups of coffee it consumes each year.
A lot of people.
Many, in fact, consider having at least a morning cup of coffee a necessary...
Sure, you are employed kind of in the coffee because you serve at the restaurant, yeah? Serve coffee, huh?
part of having a productive day, or at least a stable one. The main reason for this, unless you're drinking decaf, is the famous, invigorating, and generally safe drug called caffeine. Coffee has helped to fuel mankind in its various pursuits for centuries, but how long, exactly? Where did coffee come from, and how did it take over the world?
How long do you think coffee's been around?
Probably forever.
Forever, though? Forever's before the dinosaurs.
What? Does it come from a bush?
It's like a bean. Coffee bean, remember? It's like a bean. All I know about it's just like a bean, and then they take it and they like roast it or dry it out or something. And then after it's dry, then you just like throw boiling water, crush it up, throw boiling water in it. You got coffee. Add your sugar and cream.
Yeah. Does it come from a bush though?
I don't know.
I don't think it's a tree. Coffee tree.
No, I don't think it's a tree. I think it might be a bush or a vine or like some sort of. It's a bean. Maybe it's like a green bean, kind of like vine type thing.
I would hate to be out there picking them.
Yeah, right. That would suck. I wonder how long though. 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 100,000 years.
2000 BC.
2000 BC, so that's about 4,000 years. I'm gonna guess 10,000. Okay. I don't know why. It just sounds like a big number.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Fire of Learning.
Well,
I'm Justin. In this video, we will be exploring the fascinating origins of coffee. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Lamia Boukrees, Eric Rader, Beth Baird, Mike Fantasia, Stephen Buster, David
we're gonna skip through all those names.
Coffee. Over 125 million people today are, in some form,
I just messed that up.
The main reason did it take over the world. Michael McGinnis, Brett White, Anubis Epperson, Blazy.
Here we are, guys.
That's what you get.
I know.
Remake of a video I did years ago.
Yeah.
Now then, let's get to it.
Let's get to
Scary looking.
Many societies...
They've had one too many cups of coffee.
As the United States...
That guy's pissed off. He's been waiting for his coffee all morning. He's got shit to do.
Let's get to it. Many societies, such as the United States, home to many of the world's most famous coffee house chains, consider coffee to be a central part of their dietary culture. However, though caffeine itself has been consumed by humans in some form since before recorded history, for most of human history, coffee itself was unknown to the world. The story begins in the late Middle Ages and early modern era, with the berries of a small tree native to Oromia.
Late to Middle Ages? Or something, is that what they said? Middle Ages is what, like 1400s or some shit, or like...
I'm not sure, but it does come from a tree.
Does it? Is that what he said? Let me go back.
Middle Ages and early modern era, with the berries of a small tree native to Oromia, a region of what is today the East African nation.
Native to Oromia, so that's where it came from originally. This is the homeland
of the cafea plant.
Well, we need to...
You know, thinking about it now, Heyday has lied to me. Because I have a coffee bush.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. You better write him.
I'm going to.
Tell him about that. So the cafea bush, cafea tree or whatever it says, Ethiopia. We need to get... I've been all about this Colombian coffee or like French roast. I've never had Ethiopian coffee. We need to try that out sometime.
When exactly people first stumbled upon and consumed the berries of the cafea plant and felt the stimulating effects of the red berries or cherries is not known. One legend attributes the discovery to an Ethiopian...
It looks like cherries.
Yeah.
That's grape. It looks like a red grape.
That one looks like an avocado.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, it does. Huh.
Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi, who lived sometime between the 6th and 9th century. One day, he noticed some of his goats had become quite energetic after chewing on the red berries of an unfamiliar shrub. Made curious by his dancing goats, he tried the berries for himself and felt these energizing effects. Believing his discovery to be quite important, he took the berries to a local monk. The monk, however, rejected them and cast them into a nearby fire. However, the smell of the roasting coffee seeds within the berries, which are usually called beans, although they're technically not, caught his attention, as well as the attention of other nearby monks. The beans were taken from the fire, ground up, and mixed into a cup of water.
Why? Why did they do that, though? You know what I mean? Like, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this garbage. We tossed it in the trash. We threw it in the fire. We're going to pull it back out. We're going to grind it up into powder. We're going to mix it with water, and we're going to drink it.
Probably because of the aroma.
I guess. That's weird, though. They're like, why drink it? Like, you know what I mean? Why didn't they
Because it
just
gave
wanna
him
eat it?
energy.
Well, yeah, but the other guy didn't want that.
Yeah.
He threw it in the fire. I don't know. That's weird.
Thus, the first cup
window.
of coffee. This
Small
story,
window.
which seems to come from European writers from the late 1600s, is probably much more legend than history. One of a handful of legends pertaining to the discovery of coffee, in fact. No one knows who first discovered the effects of coffee, and we likely never will. However, it is certainly quite possible that the true story is not too dissimilar.
It was Dunkin' Donuts.
Caffeine
It was Dunkin' Donuts. They discovered it way back
It was
when.
Jesus himself, okay?
Jesus, he worked at Dunkin' Donuts back in the day.
is a
Although he prefers being called Jesus.
certainly
Okay.
quite possible that the true story is not too dissimilar. Caffeine is a deadly poison
Oh,
to
shit.
insects. It's
Oh.
believed that
Good. I got worried for a second. Like, man, I just drank some. Good thing we're not insects, right?
Right.
caffeine naturally functioned as a pesticide, overloading the nervous system of insects, causing them to die before they could consume a large portion of the plant. However, that same effect on a much larger creature, like a human or perhaps a goat, is a much more survivable and enjoyable experience. One way or another, Ethiopian locals, likely the Gala tribe, discovered this effect of the coffee berry. However, it does not appear that they were the first to make a drink from the seeds. Rather, that appears to have happened in the nearby Islamic world. Like in Africa, it appears that the Arabs first chewed the beans and made drinks from them, which historians believe were quite different from modern coffee. This may have begun sometime around the 10th century or so. The Persian scholar Al-Razi seems to have mentioned the stimulating effects of the berries around this time. The Arabs called the drink they made from the berries kabwa, a word interestingly related to their word for wine and likely the origin of the modern word for coffee across most languages.
Kabwa.
When they began making coffee in its modern form is not known, but it seems to have been sometime between the 10th and 15th century. There is clear, written evidence of the consumption of coffee in the Islamic world by at least the 15th century, a drink which they again gave the same name as the other drink, kabwa. According to Bennett Allen Weinberg and Bonnie K. B.
So 15th century was like the 1400s. So that was only like, what, it's the year 2000 or something. So only 600 and some years ago when the Islams first started drinking it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was way wrong. I was thinking like 10,000 years or some shit. You said 4,000 years. You were closer than me even. It's nuts.
Dealer in the world of caffeine, the earliest certain appearance of coffee in its modern form comes from the mid-15th century, in the monasteries of Sufi monks in Yemen, which was just across the Red Sea. They also note there is a strange lack of discussion about coffee beans or potentially coffee itself, the beans being called boon or boonsham, between the 10th and 15th centuries, with the exception of folk accounts, such as that of the Sheikh Omar. His story is another one pertaining to the supposed discovery of coffee. He is said to have survived off the berries and the drink he brewed from them after having been banished, and introduced them to his people in the 12th century. Why this 500-year gap regarding the discussion of coffee exists is yet another coffee mystery. Anyway, it appears to have reached the city of Mocha in modern-day Yemen by...
Mocha? I wonder if that's where that came from, like when you put the chocolate with the coffee and they call it mocha. I wonder if that was like how they did it there. You know what I mean? Because everything is named after shit. Like, not everything, but a lot of stuff is named after You know what I mean? Stuff that happened
see.
back then. And
by that time. It soon reached nearby Mecca. From there, Mecca,
Mecca.
being a Mecca of the Islamic world after all, it spread out across the Middle East and North Africa. Interestingly, coffee initially had a religious significance to many Muslims, especially the Sufis, who used it to assist in fasting during Ramadan, as well as to aid them in staying awake at night for prayers. It was also believed to have carried many medicinal benefits, some of which, though not all of course, scientists today know consuming it really does have. Quite quickly though, in a society which forbade alcohol, it became a drink of the common people for normal, casual use. What followed were places for men of all classes, but men only, to congregate and consume the beverage. These were the first coffee houses. Women could consume coffee at home, though in some circumstances they were allowed to sing at coffee houses, provided they were hidden from view.
What?
These coffee houses...
you were allowed to consume coffee at home, but maybe not so much in public. It sounds like. You hear that though?
That's weird.
It was, yeah, but Muslim, I mean, over there, like, I think that's where the women had to, like, cover their face and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, that's their kind of weird culture.
Houses became places of sing at coffee houses, consume coffee, consume the beverage. These were the first coffee houses. Women could consume coffee at home, though in some circumstances they were allowed to sing at coffee houses,
So
provided
they were like
hidden
little
from view.
shots.
These coffee houses became places of both relaxation and games,
Like the espresso shots.
but also serious discussion and argument. Not everyone approved, however. Other Muslims felt that the ban on intoxicants, such as alcohol, mentioned in the Quran, should apply to coffee as well. Furthermore, coffee houses became sources of trouble, centers of debauchery.
Coffee's not even like fermented into alcohol or anything, you know what I mean? It's weird.
Forbidden by Islamic law, and hotbeds of political unrest. Indeed, at certain points and in certain places, such as the city of Mecca in 1511, coffee and coffee house bans were enacted, forcing the trade and consumption underground. In some cases, trading and consuming coffee was punishable by death. The spread to the Christian world seems to have come via the burgeoning Ottoman Empire, which ruled over parts of Europe and much of the Middle East. The Ottomans conquered Yemen in 1536. Syrians introduced coffee to the capital of Constantinople in the 1550s, and the Turks became very enthusiastic about it. Many European merchants and travelers first observed it there, tried it on some occasions, and sometimes wrote of it. Coffee's gradual introduction to Europe appears to have been through both war and trade.
You know, that's probably why, like in Britain, they're more into tea than coffee. They still drink coffee, but I think tea's more popular. They were already like dedicated tea drinkers by this point, by the time coffee got to them, probably. You know, so they're like, we're gonna stick with this, or you know what I mean?
I think it's pretty funny that half of them look like tweakers.
They've had too much coffee to drink.
Gradual introduction to Europe appears to have been through both war and trade. In 1565, the Ottomans attempted to conquer the island of Malta. They were defeated, however, by the Knights of St. John. They took Ottoman soldiers as slaves, who introduced the Maltese to coffee. Decades later, the Venetians became interested in the drink, and acquired it through trade, becoming the first to introduce the drink to the continent. Throughout the late 1500s, coffee quickly spread to many other parts of Europe. England, France, the other Italians, and the Dutch were especially interested.
Yeah, the Dutch drink a lot of coffee, I heard. But yeah, so Venetians introduced it to the continent of Europe, right? So it must have came in, they were talking about the Ottomans, so it came in through here in the water, right? Reached the Venetians through probably the trade ships or something. And then, and then it spread from there. So you figure if it's coming in from this way, right? Like what I was saying earlier, England, you know, they're big tea drinkers. So maybe, you know, they're way over here. So maybe it took a while. It got to them last. So they're, again, you know, they're already like dead set with their tea drinking or something. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe he said something about England a second ago, right before the Netherlands.
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's in red as well. So I don't know if that means, I don't know. We'll find out.
And the Dutch were especially to many other parts of Europe. England, France, the other Italians, and the Dutch were especially interested. The people of Europe began to search for the plant which...
Wonder why they're big tea drinkers then, if they're, or maybe they're just interested in like trading it because it's a high value commodity or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Produced these wonderful new beans. The Dutch were the first to succeed in 1616 when a sly merchant, Peter van der Broeke, acquired them while in the city of Mocha. This was no simple task. The Yemenis guarded their coffee supply closely, requiring that any beans which left the area be boiled or roasted to prevent germination. However, Peter was not the first to succeed.
For some reason I was thinking people, coffee beans. I'm like, wait, what?
Be boiled or roasted to prevent germination. However, Peter was not the first to succeed in smuggling them. A Muslim pilgrim had already succeeded in bringing them to India by taping the seeds to his stomach under his clothes. Still, Broeke's success was of great importance to his people. He took them back to his home in the Netherlands, where he began to successfully grow them. However, such cold climates as Northern Europe are not ideal for large-scale coffee production. Thankfully for the Dutch, however, in this time they were in the business of acquiring tropical colonies, such as the island of Sri Lanka, south of India, the island of Java in Indonesia.
That's just crazy. Like, they're just like the Dutch is. I'm not even watching a video about the Dutch.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just the history of coffee, and here you go, the Dutch people are popping up.
Yeah.
Of course, they got their hand in everything. Like, what is going on? Like, what? You know what I mean? That's crazy, and for such a small country,
Yep.
it's nuts. And like, yeah, they were huge in like the trade, the trade routes and stuff back then. They had the Dutch East India Company and all that.
Such as the island of Sri Lanka, south of India, the island of Java in Indonesia, and Suriname in South America. The Dutch East India Company spearheaded European coffee production in these areas in the late 16.
Yeah, I was just saying something about the Dutch East India Company too. Yeah, so they basically were just like all about. So they were trading everything, because I know they were huge in the spice trade, like the spices with India or whatever.
And early 1700s, fueling Europe's new coffee addiction for many years. Other European empires would follow suit in their warmer colonies as well. In 1720, Gabriel de Clue brought coffee to the island of Martinique. Legend says he introduced it to the island and kept it alive on his ship by sharing his limited water ration with it, though in truth others may have already brought it there. Much of the coffee drank around the world, Arabica, is said to be descended from his plants. Arabica, by the way, is one of the four main varieties of coffee drank around the world to this day, accounting for about 65% of production.
Yeah, because it's so... Well, maybe it's not roasted yet.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Maybe it gets darker. Maybe that's like a fresh bean. Which I guess they said it's not technically a bean. It's just like a seed or something, right? On the inside of the... It's weird. I always thought it was a bean.
The other main one being Robusta, which makes up much of the remainder. Liberica and Excelsa are somewhat rarer. Anyway, coffee was also farmed by the slaves of the French colony of Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, which would later begin to produce massive amounts of coffee as well. The first European coffee houses opened in Venice in 1645. The rest of Europe followed suit, with thousands of coffee houses springing up throughout the continent in the subsequent decades. European coffee houses were not quite as rowdy as the Middle Eastern counterparts, as they already had pubs with alcohol.
He's like,
for that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Makes a face like Anthony makes.
Wonder who drew this. That's funny. This is the one she's talking about. Since you didn't see which one she was pointing at. No, you're good. I was just pointing out to them. That way they knew. Yeah.
And he looks like Beavis.
Yeah, he does from Beavis.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Thus, they were more likely to become centers of intellectual culture. However, that does not mean they were not centers of trouble at all. Coffee houses were frequent meeting places for those seeking to discuss new ideas which often contradicted the ideas of ruling political elites. In 1675, Charles II, the son of a king who had had his head cut off by political dissidents after a civil war, attempted to shut down coffee houses throughout England, but retracted his order when the public outcry was too great. Likewise, French Enlightenment philosophers were later known for gathering in coffee houses in the years prior to the French Revolution. Coffee wasn't always popular with those supportive of the Enlightenment, however. In his book, Uncommon Grounds, Mark Pendergast shares a quote from Frederick the Great, the 18th century king of Prussia, and, by the way, friend of the enthusiastic coffee addict Voltaire, in which he denounced it. He was recorded to have said,
Voltaire.
"It is disgusting to notice the increase in the quantity of coffee used by my subjects, and the like amount of money that goes out of the country in consequence. My
Well,
people
that guy looks like he's been drinking a lot of coffee. Doesn't he look how big his eyes are?
must drink beer. His Majesty was
He
brought
just
up
said they
on
should
the
drink
input of
beer. Was
coffee
there-
used by my subjects, and the like amount of money that goes out of the country in consequence. My people must drink beer. His Majesty was brought up on beer, and so were his ancestors." End quote. He then banned
so much
the
better.
roasting of coffee
Right,
outside
yeah.
of government establishments for 4 years. Old Fritz was known for being a bit of a curmudgeon. In Frederick's defense, importing coffee to Prussia was costly. Others, however, believed that coffee had helped to bring sobriety to their countries, and were glad to see the change. Like in the Islamic world, Christians initially also had religious concerns about coffee. Though their concerns were not as strong, they did
Wonder
have
why,
concerns about
like-
a Muslim drink becoming popular among their people.
Well, I mean, I guess I could see it because it's giving everybody energy. They're not used to caffeine like us, you know what I mean? So, like, with us, I mean, we've been drinking caffeine forever, so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess for them, you know, they never had anything like that, so they drink something and they're like, you know, like super energetic. So I guess I could see that, but that's still crazy. Like, but I guess we're looking at it from a modern day perspective, anyways. You know,
People in AA though, they drink a lot of coffee.
yeah.
They were talking about.
Does it
the
help
beer and
with
stuff.
the alcohol urges?
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff?
I mean like, yeah, definitely smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. That shit it goes hand in hand.
Sounds like my morning.
Yeah.
However, when concerns about a Muslim drink becoming popular among their people. However, when Pope Clement VIII tried it around the year 1600, he gave it his blessing. It is claimed, and it may or not be true, that he said, quote, "Why, this Satan's drink is so delicious that it would be a pity to let the infidels have exclusive use of it. We shall cheat Satan by baptizing it and making it a truly Christian beverage." End quote.
Alright.
I mean, I guess that's how you do it, right? You just I mean, you just twist the laws to
Just-
your like. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't want to get into a political or a religious debate on my channel here, but that's crazy.
And thus, the Catholic world, especially Italy and eventually France, accepted coffee and never looked back. The Italians in particular would
That's
become
nice.
creative with coffee, inventing many ways of having it, including espresso. In
Ooh,
Victorian England,
Italians made espresso. Nice.
Christian prohibitionists encouraged coffee houses as an alternative to alcohol. A few branches of Christianity, however,
What you were saying
eventually
kinda
did decide against coffee, most famously the Mormons. In
Mormons?
1683,
Of course they would.
Nobody cares about those weirdos.
a massive Ottoman army attempted to conquer the Austrian capital of Vienna. At the Battle of Vienna, they were defeated by a combined Christian force who, upon pillaging the Ottoman army camps, found coffee. Initially, they assumed it was camel food, so they burned it, but thankfully for them, a
Camel
commander
food?
who had lived
Is that what he said?
So they burnt it?
I think he said camel food, right?
upon
I thought-
pillaging the Ottoman army camps, found coffee. Initially, they assumed it was camel food, so they burned it, but thankfully
Yeah.
for them,
Why would
a
they burn
commander
it?
who had lived in the Ottoman Empire for a time recognized
I think because it was maybe their enemies or something they came across the coffee or something, right? So they burn it so that.
Well, they said they thought it was camel food, so they burnt it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that would be like
What do camels eat?
if you go to war with another country, you want to take out their fuel, so they can't fuel up their vehicles and their
Like
tanks.
Russia?
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, you know what I mean.
Just kidding.
Yeah. So camels are a mode of transportation. So if they go against their enemies, right, they see the camel food, like, okay, we better burn this. That way they don't have food for the camels that their armies can't, I think.
That makes sense.
the smell. This helped coffees assumed it was camel food, so they burned it. But thankfully for them, a commander who had lived in the Ottoman Empire for a time recognized the smell. This helped coffee's immediate spread throughout Central and
He's
Eastern
probably like, oh
Europe.
shit, don't burn it. That stuff smells good. That's some Starbucks or some Dunkin' Donuts right there.
Coffee
Folgers.
was very well received throughout Europe. However, throughout this time, it should be remembered that coffee was in competition with tea, for which the British, for example, developed preference.
You know, it's crazy. Like, look at the map. Like, this is all different than nowadays. Like, you know, places change. Like right here, you got Dutch Republic. which now is called the Netherlands. And then down here you got Austrian Netherlands. Well, Austria is its own country. Netherlands is its own country. Neither one of them's right here, I don't think. Maybe Austria is right here. I'm not sure. This right here is Belgium now.
Well,
This is Netherlands. And then Holy Roman Empire, this is like Germany now. You know what I mean? That's crazy how that happens.
This was the case in their American colonies as well. That is, of course, until the Tea Act was placed upon them. After American patriots held the Boston Tea Party in 1773, tea became a symbol of royal tyranny, and Americans began to prefer coffee, which they still do to this day, though it was expensive and less common in America in those days.
Because the Boston Tea Party
For example,
thing.
in 1774, John Adams wrote to his wife Abigail saying, quote, "Tea must be universally renounced, and I must be weaned. The sooner the better." Caffeine was first separated from coffee by Friedrich Ferdinand Runge in 1819, at the suggestion of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Coffee only reached isolationistic Japan in 1858. In the end, the king of coffee plantations...
1858. Japan didn't have coffee before that. That's crazy.
I bet North Korea doesn't have it.
Well, North Korea didn't become North Korea until after World War II and the Korean War. Before that, it was an open country like normal. You know what I mean? It got split to north to south. You know, it was just Korea. So they probably did get it before that time, like before they got cut off. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. Do you guys know about that? Put it down in the comment section.
I mean, North Korea was founded in
40s or 50s, probably, right?
I thought it was not as long as I thought.
No, I can't remember. Yeah, but it was after World War II, though. And then you had the Korean War right after that, in the 50s, I think.
Japan in 1858. In the end, the king of coffee plantations would be Brazil. Coffee became popular there after the country gained...
I thought they were going to say, like, Colombia or something. You know, you always hear about Colombian coffee. Brazil, huh?
Independence from Portugal in 1822. Large tracts of the Amazon were cleared to make way for coffee production. By 1852...
And they killed a lot of animals in the process and a lot of trees.
Brazil was leading the world in terms of coffee production. Much of this was through slave labor. In fact, coffee production played a large role in...
Slave labor? They got suit pants on. That dude's got a top hat. You can't tell me that dude's a slave. He's got a top hat on and he's dancing.
Ew.
The guy back there, look at his top hat, it's yellow. What kind of slave got nice clothes like that, top hat, dancing? Like this guy, he's happy as shit. Look at that. He's happy. This guy over here, he's about to bust a move. They got, you know what I mean? Like,
I can't get over these pictures.
Yeah,
it's
right.
So funny.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like it. But
and this guy's the one providing the music. He's got the drum over here. He's getting down. He's got the sailor hat on.
Looks like he just saw Jesus.
Which one?
The guy.
Oh, yeah, the drummer guy.
Yeah.
In making Brazil the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery, not doing so until 1888, and only then, in part, because paid labor from Europe became cheaper. To this day, the large, warm, and fertile country of Brazil remains the world's largest coffee producer. From 1850 until 1950, in fact, it exported more coffee than the rest of the world combined. Since then, other countries, namely Vietnam, Colombia, Indonesia, and of course Ethiopia, have begun to increase production. Each of these countries lies between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, or what's called the Coffee Belt, a geographical belt stretching around the planet where conditions are ideal for growing coffee.
Well, then what about in between? These are not ideal conditions. This one is, that one is, but like nothing in between is a good condition. That's weird to me.
Maybe not.
This is okay here. This is good here, but not in between. Like that little stretch of land.
Coffee needs to be in like a dry. It needs to grow in dry areas.
It's just weird that it follows the border. You know what I mean? Like long.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mexico and Texas. It's just, they probably just drew it out like that, but it's funny. And then look at this, half of whatever, you know, this country cool, this country not so much. I don't know, it's weird.
Today, Brazil produces 1/3 of all the world's coffee. In the industrial era, when coffee production became more bountiful, coffee began to move from being a drink more often than not associated with the upper classes to one which fueled working people in their gruesome labor conditions. To this day, common folk fuel their labor across a wide variety of fields with coffee. Though, as I mentioned, Brazil produces coffee at great levels, proportionally speaking, Finland drinks more coffee than any other country, at over 20...
Well, Finland, I challenge you.
I challenge
Because I
you
drink
too.
some coffee. Maybe I'm Finnish, who knows?
26 pounds per capita per
Hold on,
year.
what was it?
Drinks more coffee than any other country, at over 26 pounds per capita per year.
I drink 30.
The rest of Scandinavia has high consumption levels as well, if you consider Finland Scandinavia. Anyway, of the American states, New
Is
York
Finland not
is
Scandinavia, evidently? Did you hear that? He's like, if you consider Finland Scandinavia.
Sadly, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's not. I don't know. I'll have to check into that sometime.
the most interested in coffee.
Wow.
Anyway, of the American states, New York is the most interested in coffee. Today,
Okay.
coffee's popularity is stronger than ever, and it doesn't appear likely that that popularity is going anywhere. With so many people consuming so much coffee, many wonder, how exactly is coffee affecting our health? Coffee has been viewed as a drug since its beginnings. Indeed, in its early days it was perhaps viewed more as a drug than as a comestible. In its early days it was said to cause impotence, sterility, exhaustion, dry up cerebrospinal fluid, and eventually cause paralysis. Inversely, others said that it was a remedy for plague, and that it prevented stillbirths.
Well, you know what? I haven't got the plague yet, so
Well, they baptized it since then.
yeah. So it fought off the plague.
Afterwards to make it good.
Right, made it holy.
Yeah.
These claims weren't exactly scientific, but modern science has shown that there are a number of benefits and drawbacks to coffee, some of which were indeed suggested by the people of the past. Overall, coffee is considered very safe when consumed.
Why does the girl on the left look like she just did something she wasn't supposed to? Doesn't she look like she's up to no good?
A little bit.
Right? Like, what did she just do? I'm curious. Like, what is going on with this girl? She's got the look on her face like she's up to no good. Like, she just spit in the other girl's coffee or something. And she's like, just wait, guys. Like, she's going to take a drink. She don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It just looks like she's up to no good here.
By the people of the past. Overall, coffee is considered very safe when consumed at normal amounts, i.e., on average, 3 to 4 cups a day. Each cup
Okay.
of normal coffee contains
I
about
blow past
95
that.
milligrams of caffeine, almost 4 times the amount in a cup of tea. We all know people who would call that rookie numbers, though. That amount may be too high for pregnant women. Coffee intake may be associated with low birth rate or even miscarriage, but the science on this is not very clear. Overall, coffee may be more beneficial to human health than harmful.
You know, we get too many people on this damn earth anyway, so drink up.
Many studies show coffee drinkers seem to live longer than non-drinkers and are at lower risk for a whole list of diseases. Whether or
We're
not this
good.
is causal, that is to say whether or not coffee itself is actually causing people to live longer and be healthier, or if it's co-correlated with something else, is unclear. Coffee may also improve gastrointestinal health, lift mood, and, as many are well aware, give an individual a feeling of increased energy. Still,
Nice.
coffee is not very nutritional in itself, and it can have negative effects, especially when consumed in excess or consumed by individuals.
Irritability, anxious.
Oh, no.
Is this a chart about you? I'm just talking.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have some of those though. Irritability sometimes and anxiety and stuff, and you know, it probably is the coffee.
Suffering from disorders such as GERD, an anxiety disorder,
GERD,
or,
what's
much
that?
more seriously, an unruptured aneurysm. In case you were
GERD?
wondering, on average it would take about 70 cups of coffee, or over 4 gallons at once, to kill a healthy adult. Though you
Oh,
would
this is
likely
caffeine
be in-
overdose.
Right. But overdose doesn't mean death or nothing. Like this is just the, you know, the beginning stages of, and then if you drink 4 gallons at once, I guess it would kill you. So twitching. If you drink a bunch, you'd be twitching, I guess. Huh.
feeling extremely unpleasant before even nearing that number, and find yourself unable to go through with it. In fact, you would likely die from water intoxication well before caffeine overdose.
Yeah,
More
water
concentrated forms of
intoxication.
caffeine have been deadly, however, so be careful about combining coffee with other, stronger sources of caffeine. I hope you enjoy.
Well, there you guys have it. Wow. Did you learn anything from that?
I did, but like I'm still curious, like how long does it take for a coffee bean to grow where you can pick it? Did they give that answer?
No, it didn't go in depth of that. But how long does a coffee bean take to grow? We're gonna look it up online real quick then. How long does
How long does a coffee maker last?
Boom. Depending on the variety, it will take approximately 3 to 4 years for the newly planted coffee trees to bear fruit. The fruit, called the coffee cherry, turns a bright deep red when it is ripe and ready to be harvested. Boom. 3 to 4 years.
Wow, deep red, huh?
Deep red, like a red grape.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So drink up, guys. Long live coffee, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, you guys have a super fun, awesome day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Take care.
Smash like, hit subscribe, and have an awesome day. All right. Later.